Let's step back onto the muddy plains, where the scent of diesel and gun oil lingers, and the ground trembles beneath the treads that once bore the Red Army across half of Europe. The BT-7, the Red Army's Speedy Spearhead. In the prelude to World War II, the Soviet Union assembled one of the most ambitious and unconventional armored forces of its time. While Western nations were still testing unwieldy light tanks and tentative military strategies, the Soviets threw themselves into a doctrine of speed, shock, and mass production. Central to this mechanized vision was the BT series, short for Bystrokhodny Tank, or Fast Tank, a line of vehicles built for speed and aggression. The most advanced model, the BT-7, reflected both the innovation and the shortcomings of Soviet tank engineering in the interwar years. From Christie's blueprints to Stalin's war machine, the BT-7's origins trace not to Soviet factories, but to American ingenuity. In the late 1920s, U.S. engineer J. Walter Christie devised a revolutionary suspension system that allowed tanks to move far faster than traditional models. His quote-unquote convertible drive tanks could run on wheels during road travel and switch to tracks for combat. While the U.S. military was unimpressed, Soviet agents eagerly acquired Christie's designs, reverse-engineered them, and tailored them for their own needs. By the mid-1930s, the Soviet Union was mass-producing BT tanks. The BT-5 and BT-7, descendants of Christie's prototype, could reach speeds of nearly 50 miles per hour, an impressive feat for the time. Stalin's doctrine of deep battle, which called for swift armored thrusts deep into enemy territory, leaned heavily on these high-speed machines. The BT-7 represented the height of this philosophy, faster, sturdier, and better armed than its forerunners. Design and performance, fast but fragile. Debuting in 1935, the BT-7 retained the series' sleek, low-slung profile, but offered several key improvements. Its 45mm 20K main gun was among the top-tier light tank weapons of the 1930s, capable of destroying most German and Japanese tanks it encountered. It held up to 72 rounds and was supported by a 7.62mm DT machine gun mounted coaxially for anti-infantry defense. Speed remained its greatest asset. Powered by the M17T gasoline engine, a licensed copy of the BMW V1 aircraft engine, the BT-7 could hit 53 kilometers per hour on tracks, and even faster in wheeled mode. Soviet propaganda dubbed it a flying tank, and indeed few rivals could match its agility. Some models even introduced sloped armor, a feature that would later define the legendary T-34. However, protection remained its Achilles heel. Armor thickness ranged from just 13mm to 22mm, sufficient against small arms, but helpless against heavy anti-tank weapons. In short, the BT-7 was a swift and deadly striker, but poorly equipped for defensive combat. Trial by fire. Spain, Mongolia, and Finland. The BT-7 saw combat before the world plunged into global war. During the Spanish Civil War, 1936 to 1939, Soviet-supplied BTs clashed with German and Italian tanks. The 45mm cannon devastated Panzer Is and Italian tankettes. But the BT's armor proved vulnerable to evolving anti-tank weapons. It became clear that speed alone could no longer guarantee survival. Mongolia, 1939. BT-7s led the charge under Soviet General Georgy Zhukov at the Battle of Khalkhin Gul against Japan. Racing across the steppe, the tanks executed rapid encirclements and demonstrated the viability of Soviet deep battle tactics. This victory solidified Zhukov's reputation and highlighted the BT-7's strengths in open terrain. The Winter War with Finland, 1939 to 1940, however, told a different story. In snowy forests and marshes, the BT-7's speed was rendered useless. Finnish soldiers wielded Molotov cocktails and anti-tank rifles with lethal effectiveness. Mechanical failures were frequent, and crews suffered in the cold, poorly insulated interiors. The BT-7, so effective on open ground, faltered in harsh defensive conditions. Operation Barbarossa, overtaken by time. When Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa on June 22, 1941, over 4,000 BT-7s were in Soviet service. On paper, they seemed competitive with German Panzer IIIs and IVs. In reality, the German Blitzkrieg exposed all of the BT-7's flaws. Its gasoline engine turned it into a fire trap when hit. Its armor could be easily breached by German 37mm and 50mm cannons, not to mention the feared 88mm guns. As Soviet forces retreated, breakdowns became rampant, and spare parts were scarce. Many BT-7s were left behind, destroyed or captured. The once advanced flying tank had become outdated overnight. Despite this, Soviet crews displayed extraordinary bravery. Reports describe BT-7s charging German lines at full speed, ramming vehicles or breaking through enemy encirclements. Many tanks went up in flames, but their sacrifices bought crucial time for the Soviet Union to reorganize and begin mass production of the superior T-34. Legacy, a precursor to the T-34. By 1942, the BT-7 had largely disappeared from frontline service, replaced by T-34 and the KV-1. Yet its legacy endured. Features like sloped armor, high mobility, and maneuver-focused tactics carried over directly into the T-34's design. In many respects, the BT-7 served as a bridge between the experimental tanks of the 1930s and the hardened battlefield machines of World War II. To the men who fought in them, the BT-7 was a paradox, a mechanical marvel that could win battles under the right conditions, but also a death trap in the wrong ones. Historians view it as a reflection of the Soviet Union's bold, sometimes reckless, approach to armored warfare during the interwar period. Conclusion: a tank ahead of its time, then left behind. The BT-7 was born in an age of military experimentation, when speed was believed to be the ultimate weapon and the rules of armored combat were still being written. In the vast open terrain of Mongolia, it reigned supreme. In the snowy woods of Finland or the chaos of 1941, it proved outdated. Its story is one of ambition and innovation, ultimately eclipsed by the brutal lessons of World War II. Though it would be overshadowed by the T-34, the BT-7 remains a striking chapter in the history of armored warfare, a Soviet greyhound that sprinted across the battlefield, only to be overtaken by history itself.